Dragon Dice has come to Tabletopia, and we are going to walk you through how to play and control your dice to play Dragon Dice. When you first join the game, it's going to give you a quick tutorial of different controls and how to control the game. First is the camera controls, so you can zoom in or out with your mouse wheel or the plus and minus buttons. Holding down the right mouse button, you can rotate the camera any direction you choose. You can also move the camera by left mouse and dragging, or using the WSAD buttons on your keyboard. There's a full screen button with the backtick or escape. And you can also set camera views by holding shift and a number, and then you can press that number to go back to that camera view. So you can save camera views for useful views, such as looking at your reference sheet. So you can go to the dice view and the sheet view. Next, we've got the option to go full screen, so we can see in all its full screen glory. We'll go back to full screen later. You can also learn how to interact with different objects. Mostly we'll be interacting with dice, but we also have spell cards and reference sheets available. We'll try this out later. There's also a question mark down here on the bottom left. There's rules up above, so you can see the rules for the two-player starter. Or click this for a overview of the different controls that are available for the game. And then, of course, mute or full volume for the game. Down below is your hand of objects. So, for example, you can select a deck of cards, drag it to the bottom of the screen when this red color appears, or whatever color your player color is, and that will place the cards into your hand. These cards can be put out into play, put back into your hand, and you can click your avatar to make it disappear or reappear. Up here in the top left is the menu where you can restart the game or go back to the lobby. And then on the bottom right is a chat box, so you can say things like, I maneuver at my home terrain. If you're playing over Steam, you can use voice chat, or you can use an external voice chat such as Discord or Slack. But this chat is also available as an option. And then you can send the link and the URL to your opponents to invite friends to play the game with you. When you join the game, there will be these circles with a plus, which you can click to sit in that player spot. So green is Treefolk, that's player 2. Player 1 is red, which is the Firewalkers. And then as far as controlling the dice, you can click the dice one by one, or you can hold shift to click multiple, or holding shift you can click and drag to select multiple dice. You can press R to roll the dice. If you want to set them all back up to the IDs to see what dice you have, you can right click and you have this menu option. So for example, set to 1 will set all the dice to their IDs to see their ID value. We also advise clicking away from the dice when you go to click something else, so you don't accidentally select a different army and accidentally roll the original army as well. Another control is with F, you can increase a value by 1, which is very useful for the terrain dice, since terrain dice go up and down. And then to go down, so from 4 down to 3, I would go into that menu and I would set this to 3. And just look briefly at the other options. You can lock a die so that players don't accidentally interact with it. You can flip a die, you can rotate it, changing its orientation, or you can roll the die. And these are all shortcuts to do this with. So Q and E to rotate, F to flip, R to roll, These are some of the shortcuts available. So when you're playing the game, you start off with this sealed starter. One player's Firewalkers, one player's Treefolk. Each player gets 2 terrain and 2 dragons. If you want to see what the 8th phase of the terrains are, you can select all the terrains and then change it to the 8th phase to see what 8 phases you're playing over. The first thing you do when you're playing this sealed tournament is you split up your army or your forces into 3 separate armies. One at the home, one at the horde, and one at the frontier. Since a starter comes with 2 kickers worth of dice or 30 health points worth of dice, you must have no more than 15 health per army. And then after both sides have placed their armies, so we'll have the Treefolk place their armies real quick. You will then move on to a horde roll where the players will roll off for who gets to go first. So the Treefolk have placed their armies. The Treefolk will roll their horde. And we as the Firewalkers will roll our horde army. Counting up the maneuvers. So 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. To the Treefolk's 2. So the Firewalkers win. The Firewalkers get to choose either a terrain die or going first. So when they choose a terrain die, the die they don't want gets removed from the game. And then the starting 3 terrain are all rolled to get their starting value set. If an 8 is rolled, that die gets re-rolled, and if a 7 is rolled, it gets dropped down into a 6. Then you are ready to play your game. Treefolk would start first, following the usual turn sequence. You can check out the rules to follow any rules of how to play. Just to step through a few last things to help with. So you have a hand of cards that we've mentioned before. This hand of cards are different spells that your race can cast. We provided 2 decks of cards. So in case if you want to cast Ash Storm at 2 different locations, you can do that. If you cast multiple of a spell at a location, we've got these counters here to help with that. So you can place a counter on the Ash Storm to show I have 2 instances of Ash Storm at this terrain. You can right-click the counter, and you can modify its value. So maybe there's 5 Ash Storms at the terrain. So I can increase or lower the value of this token. And then when it expires, I put the token back, take the card back into my hand. The player reference sheet. We'll go back to our camera view that we set up earlier. This is a reminder of what the racial abilities are and what spells the Firewalkers have available, as well as an icon reference sheet to identify your Firewalkers. And again, F will flip the card over to see the back of the sheet. We have the elemental spells, such as Resurrecting Dead and Summoning Dragons. Since this is a starter game, all dragons are treated as ivory dragons. So 7 color of any color of magic will summon a dragon. And then there's a list of SAIs and how the SAIs are handled for each die. So with that, I hope you learn how to play Dragon Dice and have a lot of fun. Just a couple last gotchas in case you run into some of this is you may, as you're moving dice around, have some dice tumble. And you end up with some weird results, like now it's rolling sideways. And if I set it to its ID face, you can see it's not going to its ID face. But with the rotating ability, which again, there's a shortcut of Q and E, you can rotate the die, and it fixes the die, so it now rolls normally, and it goes back to the ID face normally. You can also expand the chat. You can increase the size of it. Oops. You can increase it up or wider, as big or small as you want it to be. And that's all you need to know to play. So get rolling those dragons and have fun.